Exactly 86 years ago, on September 17, 1939, Soviet Russia joined forces with Germany and attacked Poland. Once again in history, our country had to face threats from both the East and the West. From the dawn of time, Poland had to guard both its western and eastern borders. In the interwar period, hatred towards Poland united two murderous totalitarian regimes, Russian communism and German Nazism. Berlin and Moscow divided Eastern Europe through the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, thus sealing Poland's fate. On September 1st, we were attacked by Germany, and on September 17th by the Soviets. Poland's fate was sealed. Hitler and Stalin were jointly responsible for the outbreak of World War II. The Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact threatened the integrity and independence not only of Poland, but also of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania, and Finland. The Polish state faced a great challenge. The command issued an order not to fight the Soviets, but to focus on the Germans. As a result, thousands of people ended up in Moscow captivity, which often ended in a terrible death and the abandonment of their bodies in a mass unmarked grave. A lot of people, the best people, and the best equipment were sent west, but in many places, resistance was put up. The sailors of the flotilla found themselves in an exceptionally tragic situation. The eastern borderlands of the Republic of Poland fell under Soviet rule. Moscow began the process of creating new elites loyal to it. First, they murdered the existing leaders, which took place in the spring of 1940 in the Katyn forest. Then, both during the occupation and after the war, Soviet agents created a new man, the so-called Homo Sovieticus, who was supposed to create a new wonderful world without God and tradition, and we are still dealing with this today. The Bolshevization or Sovietization of our lives continues to some extent to this day. Broken characters, broken backs. Moscow propaganda says that in September 1939, the Red Army liberated Ukrainians and Belarusians, and this lie is still being spread today. When the war ended, the recent allies were on two different sides. The Germans were deservedly convicted in Nuremberg, while the Soviets appeared as victims. In the eyes of the Western world, Moscow was the good guy during the war. This is also a big mistake, I think a mistake or a failure of Polish historical policy, that it has not managed to get the message across to the world that it was Poland that was attacked by the Soviet Union. On September 1st, the Third Reich attacked Poland, while on September 17th, well, no one really knows what happened. We on the Vistula know perfectly well who is the executioner and who is the victim, and we know how to honor our heroes. On the anniversary of Moscow's treacherous attack, a funeral ceremony for the remains of the victims of the Katyn massacre was held in the crypt of the Field Cathedral of the Polish Army in Warsaw. With full honors, the remains of the murdered Poles were laid to rest in 16 urns in the cathedral's crypt. For 45 years, Soviet propaganda was poured into us. They wanted to take our bodies and souls. But today, we are here. We are here today. We remember, and we will never give up our freedom and independence. But we must also do everything we can to ensure that Katyn never happens again. Down with communism. Long live a free and independent Poland. Years go by, and Russia, whether Tsarist, Bolshevik, or Putinist, continues to be a threat to Poland and all of Europe. A hybrid war is being waged against us, as exemplified by last week's drone attack. The Russian embassy is located in the center of Warsaw, in a prestigious location, close to important state buildings. Law and Justice believes that this must be changed as soon as possible, and therefore, on the symbolic day of September 17th, it is calling for the Moscow embassy to be moved. The fact that during the Stalinist period, when Poland was essentially a Soviet colony, the embassy was located there. And this location also had a symbolic meaning. We are still dealing with the tragic consequences of the German and Russian invasions. None of our occupiers have ever paid us war reparations. The truth about the tragic fate of our homeland during World War II is being distorted today. We must fight for historical truth, because it is in the interest of our eternal enemies to create global amnesia, because then they will be able to rewrite history. Autumn 2021. Illegal immigrants from the Middle East, brought in by Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko, stormed the Polish border. Border guards, police officers, and Polish soldiers heroically defend it. Now they are facing charges for their heroic actions. Donald Tusk and his ruling team in the prosecutor's office have appointed a team of prosecutors in Siedlce who ordered the defenders of Poland's borders to be taken away in handcuffs at 6 in the morning. Gazeta Polska codziennie asked the district prosecutor's office in Siedlce whether the defenders of Poland's borders are being held accountable. It turns out that they are. Several of them have already been charged with, among other things, exceeding their powers. According to Law and Justice, this is scandalous and very dangerous.
Ja żądam, żeby Donald Tusk
I demand that Prime Minister Donald Tusk dissolve the team of prosecutors who were appointed for what purpose? To bring charges against Polish army soldiers. And for what? For using weapons in defense of the Republic of Poland. One of these soldiers was handcuffed, charged, and the indictment was sent to court. 3 officers were charged with unauthorized use of physical force, service batons, and handheld incapacitating substance launchers, among other things. Looking at these photos, one might ask, how else could they defend themselves against an attack by immigrants supported by the Belarusian services? And why are they now being prosecuted for this by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk's people?
Człowiek, który dla politycznego interesu
This is a man who spat on the Polish uniform for political gain, and when Tusk came to power, he did not hesitate to prosecute soldiers for defending our independence for political gain. Let us remember that this is a brutal hybrid war against Poland, using aggressive immigrants and Belarusian services. What we saw on the Polish-Belarusian border was a hybrid attack, difficult to imagine, by Alexander Lukashenko and the Belarusian authorities, who are supported by Russian forces. This attack was aimed at destabilizing the level of security in Poland, so the presence of the army, police, and additional border guard forces was certainly a requirement until a barrier could be built on the border. While the Polish services were defending the security of us all, Donald Tusk ridiculed the idea of building a border barrier and said the following about the immigrants sent by Lukashenko. These are poor people who are looking for their place on earth. Today, he is portraying himself as the defender of Polish soldiers. Hands off Polish soldiers.
Donald
Tusk is trying to morally blackmail his political opponents. Because if the Prime Minister of Poland writes, hands off Polish soldiers, he should say these words to himself in the mirror. Because it was Donald Tusk who attacked Polish soldiers when illegal immigrants were crossing the Polish border. Because at that time, he said that they were not dangerous migrants, but poor people looking for help and support. At a time when Poles stood united behind the Polish uniform, Donald Tusk assured them that the border with Belarus did not need to be defended. And when he came to power, he began to punish those who risked their lives and health for our security. It was when Donald Tusk took the reins of the government that investigations began to pour in, followed by charges not only against Polish soldiers, but also against Polish uniformed services in general, who guard the Polish border and ensure that we can feel safe. That is why maintaining the prosecutor's crackdown on soldiers and officers is very harmful.
groźny, szkodzi Polsce.
It is dangerous and harms Poland in 2 ways. Firstly, because soldiers are afraid to use their weapons, because they may face charges and accusations as a result. And secondly, because the aggressor knows this, which encourages them to attack Poland. Polish services deserve respect and support. This was given to them today by the new head of the National Security Bureau, Professor Sławomir Cęckiewicz, who met with soldiers and officers defending Poland's borders. Nothing like this has ever happened before at the royal residence in Windsor. The grandeur with which U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania were welcomed can only be compared to royal celebrations. Suffice it to say that the British authorities have unequivocally stated that there has not been such a mobilization since the coronation of the king, and the very nature of this visit is unprecedented. The highlight of the welcome was a parade of royal carriages and a military drill by the Royal Guard, received jointly by King Charles and Donald Trump.
I'm here today to show my support for President Trump, who is up against all odds, but is always battling for the people, trying to clean up the mess that's been created for a long time in the States. He's doing a fabulous job. He's doing what he can internationally, and a lot of people need a lot of help. And I think he's a beaming light that can show people the way.
Thousands of people are gathered in front of Windsor, mainly Donald Trump supporters, who have come here especially from the farthest corners of the British Isles.
I'm hoping to see the crowd give him the due respect that he deserves. He's a peacemaker, and we need more peacemakers, particularly what's happened in the United States in the last couple of days. Some calm and sanity needs to be the food of thought for the day. So I'm hoping he can transcend peace right across everything that he does.
Donald Trump arrived in the United Kingdom with a clear message. Americans support the British and wants to develop cooperation in every area. For the second time, he received an official royal invitation, which is not a frequent occurrence. For the first time, the Windsor Castle is hosting the guest of honor.
My relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend. And it's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. And this one's at Windsor. They've never used Windsor Castle for this before. They used Buckingham Palace. And I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle is the ultimate, right? So it's going to be nice.
However, the Americans have important geopolitical issues to discuss with the British. First, the issue of trade, perhaps a new, more attractive customs agreement. Second, issues of military cooperation. Donald Trump has confirmed that the Americans have approved the first $2 billion packages of arms purchases made by European countries for Ukraine. Tomorrow's meeting with the British Prime Minister will certainly touch on the subject of American participation in the security architecture in Europe in the context of Russian threats directed at the British as well. Dubai unveiled a new contactless immigration system at its international airport, allowing passengers to clear border control simply by walking through a red carpet corridor without presenting any documentation.
The new smart tunnel basically allows 10 passengers to use it at the same time without the need to present any documentations to verify themselves. They just walk through it and their process is complete at the immigration touchpoint.
The smart tunnel system, currently operational at Terminal 3's Business Departure Hall, uses AI-powered biometric technology to verify travelers' identities automatically.
What I love about the red carpet is that it cuts my travel time by 20 or 30%, and I've used it for the second time.
It definitely saves effort and time, and it's very comfortable. Dubai plans to expand the technology to other terminals and AI Maktoum International Airport in the near future, according to officials.